Hey, this is Mike here, and this is Craft Beer News. This is a segment we do on Craft Beer Storm. We do this once a week on Fridays, and I have a special guest here today. We have Matt Jimenez. He's in Goose Island, China. He's in Shanghai. How you doing, Matt?
Doing good, Mike. How you doing?
I'm okay. Now we are truly global. We got China, right?
Worldwide.
We are. Yep. We're saying we're trying to be the craft beer ambassadors to the planet, and we're getting there, right? I'm in China. I mean, it's across the world, and you're 13 hours. Like it's 7:48 here. What is it? 8:48 there in the evening.
Yep. 8:48.
So it's 13 hours ahead, and Matt's like, yeah, I just opened a beer. It's awesome. I'm like, I'm still working on my coffee here, right? I'm working on my Aroma Joe's coffee. Trying to get awake here, but I'm glad you took the time out, Matt. I appreciate it. And I invited Matt. We just did an episode which will released in about a month from now on his dealings with China and how his journey and how he became a brewer at Goose Island, China, and it's just very interesting. But stay tuned for that. But I said, hey, why don't you stay on and we'll do some craft beer news and maybe relate it to what's happening in China as well. So it's going to be a pretty cool episode. So let's get to it. I got a couple of articles.
Yep.
Artisanal Brewing Ventures execs discuss 100% acquisition of Sixpoint Brewery. So Sixpoint has been sold. Sixpoint Brewery, they make really good beer. Apparently they had about 4 years of discussions with Sixpoint Brewery. Founder Shane Welch, the Artisanal Brewing Ventures, ABV, finally completed the deal to purchase 100% of the Brooklyn-based craft brewery this week. As the deal came together, ABV, which is backed by family office Ulysses Management, and formed in 2016 via a merger of Victory Brewing and Southern Tier Brewing. And yeah, those two guys merged, and apparently they have some kind of entity. And also they went to Wells Fargo to help finance the acquisition. So these guys are growing. And unlike ABV's partnerships with Victory and Southern Tier, whose founders have remained involved in the businesses they started, Welch is exiting the company he founded in 2004 to focus on other craft beer-related businesses, including a smartphone app that helps facilitate direct-to-consumer sales at breweries. That's interesting. And now the Sixpoint Brewmaster and Chief Product Officer Eric Bakili, hope I'm saying it right, will lead the company. Last year, Welch hired Bakili away from popular Massachusetts craft brewer Trillium Brewing. I don't know if anybody's in the Massachusetts area, but Trillium's making awesome beer. And actually, I found out the other day that Edgar Hernandez, we did a podcast with him. He used to be with Bad Labs Beer Company, and he went over to Trillium, and we interviewed Edgar on episode 6 of Craft Beer Storm. So I need to reconnect with them. I got some emails out, and I got some messages, and they responded. So we're trying to connect with Edgar, see what's going on at Trillium. And according to Coleman and Barnett, Sixpoint was an attractive acquisition target for ABV due to the geographical presence in New York City, where the brewery sells more than half of its volume, as well as alignment within the Sheehan family network of wholesalers. So Sheehan is big, like in the Northeast, and I think it's smart that they sell more than half its volume close to home. Makes sense. And according to Coleman, Sixpoint is on pace to produce 55,000 barrels of beer by the end of 2018. The company did not report production figures to the Brewers Association last year, but in 2016 it reported production of 74,500 barrels. So there's your purchases, and how's the environment there? I mean, in terms of acquisitions and consolidations.
Here in China,
Mm-hmm.
so I will say that it's just starting, little by little. I wouldn't say it's aggressive like it was in the States. Anheuser-Busch or AB InBev they've purchased 2 microbreweries here in Asia that I know of. One being my former employer, Boxing Cat Brewery in Shanghai, and then another one, which is a beer that I'm drinking from them right now in Korea. They're called the Hand and Malt Brewing Company. That was a recent acquisition. I believe that happened about six months ago. So they are popping up here and there, but I wouldn't go to the on how aggressive it was in the States. Yeah, nothing to the extreme.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity here. One's buying another one, and I think AB is setting up these entities, and then the entities are buying things, and then AB takes 100% control of them, and so there's a lot of stuff going on here still. A lot of money being thrown around to purchase these breweries, which is interesting, and the dynamics. Just hopefully the quality and the recipes remain the same. But
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, like how many barrels do you guys do? Do you do hectoliters or barrels, or how does that work?
We do hectoliters.
I think it's 0.85 barrels a hectoliter. I think something like that. It's close.
To be honest, I don't know the figures off the top of my head at the moment.
It's probably a lot. You're Goose Island. You got massive. What's the size of your brew house there?
So the brew pub that we have in Shanghai is 10 hec. It's small, but the actual large brewery that we have that produces our craft beer in China is 50 hec.
Okay.
So it's 5,000 liters.
That's a sizable system. And you're at the actual brew pub there, right?
Yep.
Doing the beer. All right, that's cool.
Yep. You
have a lot of leverage. I guess you can experiment a little bit more.
Yeah, it allows me to play around with different ingredients, and I'm able to. There's more flexibility, in my opinion, on the smaller scale in China rather than the bigger scale. Because in China, you have to have certain things that are certified that we can use in the actual factory. So they have to have QS, like I was mentioning before. But in the brew pub, we have more flexibility.
Well, that's cool. And I think you were mentioning on your other podcast, you use some local ingredients too, right? You were mentioning the peppercorns.
Yep. Yeah, we use peppercorns. Use ginger, honey. So, wow. And in the brew pubs, we can use more and more of that. In the larger scale, it's a little more tricky.
Yeah.
Because we have to find a qualified supplier before we can use it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's it's interesting over there. And I think you were mentioning, what is the percentage of craft beer? In China, I guess it's not that much, is it?
No, it's extremely small. It's less than 1%.
Wow.
I wouldn't even say it's more than 0.1%. I want to say it's like 0.01%.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it's extremely small.
It has a lot of room for growth then.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the number of people in China, right?
Big.
There's billions of people.
Yeah.
Or 1 billion people or something like that. I'm being an American again. We're talking about the how China executes people. We're talking about the I think there was an antibiotic that was out there. It's like this pharmaceutical company, and there's an antibiotic, and it's making people sick. So they got the CEO of the company and like executed him. Like, oh my God. Like, it's heavy duty. You want to make sure your company's not producing stuff like that. So that's good. But our next story is about the TTB. The TTB accepts offer for trade practice violations. Apparently, a lot of these distributors are not, I don't know. I don't want to say a lot of them, but some of them are not really playing, fairly. It says TTB and Elgin Beverage agree to a $325,000 offer in compromise. I guess they settled. So the TTB is the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau. They're the U.S. Entity that controls alcohol in the country and licenses and taxes. Yesterday announced that the acceptance of the $325,000 offer in compromise from Illinois distributor Elgin Beverage Company for alleged violations of Tied House provisions. And Elgin, based in Bartlett, about 35 miles from Chicago, distributes products from Constellation Brands, Pabst Brewing, and FIFCO USA, among others. In a press release, TTB said Elgin had aided and abetted another industry member in the use of a third party to pay retailers to carry and promote their products. So they were giving money to these guys. Pay-to-play scheme, TTB argued, gave Elgin an unfair advantage in the marketplace. Surprise, surprise. I'm just shocked that they did that. It's unbelievable. This stuff happens, and, I'm glad that TTB is doing something about it, at least. TTB remains committed to putting an end to anti-competitive practices that hurt law-abiding businesses and prevent consumers from enjoying a wide selection of products, the agency wrote. I think that's great.
I agree with you.
What's going on with distribution in China? How do they do that? Can breweries self-distribute or no?
As long as you have your QS and you're certified, you can distribute. But if you do not have that, you're not allowed to. If you're importing your beer into China, you got to go through a rigorous way of going through the system, because they have at the imports, they have to I'm trying to recall, if I remember correctly, at the borders for customs, depending on alcohol percentage and level, like tax and things like that, you have to know your way around the law here in China when you're importing. So it's always important to go through a sustainable supplier or distributor to enter into the market, if because they'll know the legal laws to actually enter in and go through customs. If you don't, your product could sit longer,
or you can get executed.
And then it goes bad.
Oh God, it's just crazy. I saw that thing and I just can't get it out of my mind. I'm like, this guy, it's unbelievable. But I can understand they get, it's a very strict, there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. So it's probably not an easy thing, I would say, to self-distribute. You probably have to go through a distributor, or like for smaller brewery.
Yeah. So so I'm looking at a can now that we brought in from Korea, and for distributing it, like on the back of the can, there has to be a sticker, and that sticker will tell you all the label and what's on it, what's the OG, what's the alcohol, what ingredients are inside of it, and then it gives you the expiration date. You have to go through that process and apply for it to get this sticker, and it has to go on each and every bottle or can before it enters into China. Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that you need to do if you want to distribute there. Wow. TTB continues the high incidence of unlawful activities and deliberate concealment of such activities raise serious concerns. These activities are of particular significance because of their nationwide occurrence and their impact on trade and fair competition. I'm glad these guys are getting involved. That somebody's getting involved here, because the states are not doing it. They mandate taxes and all this, but in terms of cracking down on these guys, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to. It just doesn't seem fair to me. It doesn't seem fair when I go into a bar or a restaurant and they're like, we can't take. I'm sorry, we don't deal with self-distributors. I'm like, come on, give me a break, man. What's going on here? You hear that stuff and it's just like it annoys me. And that's another reason why I started this podcast. Because I kept going into stores, and you see like 90% is this big beer. And you see like maybe a small portion, like a shelf, is like a local craft beer, or you go into a restaurant, they'll have like 12 tap lines, and they'll have like 11 are big beer, and then like one is like maybe one you'll have as a local brewery. But I think that's slowly changing. A lot of these larger chains are understanding that people do want some local beer, so it's good to get. They're going to give a tap line, give some discretion to the managers, which is good. So then in May, the TTB accepted a $900,000 offer in compromise from Warsteiner Importers Agency, the largest single offer in compromise trade practice violations ever accepted by the agency. So this Warsteiner settled with the TTB too. That's almost $1 million. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of money being thrown around.
Man, yeah, it's crazy. I don't know where this money is. I don't know. But next story is BA Chief Economist, the Brewers Association. Brewery visits are good for beer industry health. I think that's a good statement. In his latest blog post, Brewers Association Chief Economist Bart Watson said getting people into breweries is a good thing for the beer industry. I agree. I think people should go into your local brewery. And his rationale was recent Nielsen CGA data that suggests beer drinkers who visit breweries drink more beer, while those who do not visit breweries drink less, which makes a lot of sense because they go in, they find out, maybe they find their new favorite beer. Maybe they were just, they just interested, or they had available to them, or they thought I had available to them, just lagers and pilsners, and there's just so many different types of styles, which we go over. Every Wednesday I do a different type of style. We have a Beer Styles podcast under Craft Beer Storm where we go through a different style. And this week we had honey beer, actually, honey beer. So beers that have honey infused in them. And then his pitch to beer distributors, some of whom have expressed concerns about the proliferation of brewery tap rooms. He says if these beer lovers are drinking a typical amount, their beer consumption is going up far more than at the brewery sales alone, suggesting once again that brewery visits spill out into the wider market and help build brand beer. So visiting a brewery is great. It just gets you involved, and it just focuses your attention on beer and what's available, and I think it's a good thing. So now the Brewers Association, they are I think they're kind of based in the States, but I don't know if they're like a worldwide entity. I mean, have they had a presence there in China?
Yeah, actually, the Brewers Association has showed up. From my remembering, I think they've showed up a couple times. They've also brought in beers from the U.S. that were part of the Brewers Association. That's where I was telling you about Sixpoint Brewing. I remember them bringing in some of their beers. I remember them bringing in Stone and a couple other microbreweries. I think Smutty Nose was one of them as well that they brought into China. Mm-hmm. They've made a small presence, and it's always great to have a little piece of home come to China, especially when it comes to beer. So yeah, they've dabbled here and there, but I don't really know their full extent on what they want to or plan to do in China. But I do know that they have made a presence, especially in craft beer festivals here.
Well, they do the World Beer Cup, I think, every 2 years. So and that involves, that's the World Beer Cup. So every country in the world can, enter that competition. Actually, I entered my stout. It wasn't the last time. I think it was the time before I entered the stout in. And, we use Irish barley. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm a pretty good stout. And actually, we were in the in one of the Great American Beer Festivals. Our stout was in one of the finalists. I mean, we didn't win a medal, but it got there. It advanced to the final round, which is awesome. But it ended up in that one, that particular World Cup, that a brewery in Japan brewed the best stout.
Okay.
I'm like, come on, man! I'm using Irish barley, and this guy in Japan. But you never know. I mean, Japan? It depends on the style. Yeah. Have you had Japanese beers or?
Yeah, actually, Japanese craft beer has exploded. There's a lot of great beer in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots. Their market has exploded. They've had multiple microbreweries pop up. One of my favorites that I go to all the time is Baird. But Japan is pretty mature in the market for craft beer, in my opinion.
Cool. All I see here from Japan is the Sapporo, Japan. Yeah, Sapporo's Japanese.
Japan.
That's the only Japanese beer I kind of... And Kirin is Chinese or Japanese? I'm not sure.
Kirin's Japanese as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the big players, like
the big
Asahi.
ones.
Yeah, they're your Budweisers and the Heinekens of Japan.
Right.
But even those guys, they're stepping in the craft a little too. And I mean, I've gone to Tokyo before, and I remember going into a 7-Eleven, and I remember seeing like Kirin Peach Light Lager or something, and I was like, oh, cool. I'll give it a try. It's cool to see the big guys doing something. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to go to Japan, though, the beer scene there is absolutely awesome. Actually, one of the biggest beer competitions is held there in Yokohama.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Asia Beer Cup. We enter it regularly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. But it's only for Asian breweries, I guess, or?
I don't know. To be honest,
Yeah, I should enter it. Maybe I'll win.
Yeah. Toss your beer in there. Yeah.
I gotta get connected. Oh man, I have to get the beer over there. Oh yeah, I have to ship it over there, so that probably be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe FedEx can do it. I don't know. But interesting. But the last story we have is Massachusetts. We're waiting for this to commence recreational cannabis sales on November 20th. That's tomorrow. We're recording this on the 19th, so on the 20th they're going to. That's it. I mean, it's coming out. The first legal recreational cannabis sales east of the Mississippi will occur on the 20th, tomorrow, according to the Boston Globe. In a press release, the state's Cannabis Control Commission announced that had approved two companies, Cultivate Holdings LLC and New England Treatment Access LLC, to begin selling marijuana and marijuana products. This is a signal to open retail marijuana establishments. Marks a major milestone for voters who approve legal adult use cannabis in our state. The commission chairman, Stephen J. Hoffman, said in a press release. To get here, licensees underwent thorough background checks, passed multiple inspections, and had their products tested, all to ensure public health and safety as the new industry gets up and running. So, and then it took lawmakers and regulators more than 2 years to finally approve cannabis sales after Massachusetts voters passed a 2016 ballot initiative making recreational cannabis legal. That's what I was wondering. I mean, they passed the ballots. I guess the lawmakers had to go to work and figure out how to do this. And there you go, just in time for Thanksgiving. So,
hey, that's awesome.
And this is included in the beer news. I mean, because a lot of we talk about this, like, I think every week, because there's a new story coming out about THC infused. They call them beers, that are coming out. So I think shortly we'll probably see that in Massachusetts. I mean, in Colorado they're already producing this stuff. But I think we're probably going to see it in Massachusetts shortly. I don't know I'm sure people are doing this behind the scenes or planning it, getting ready to go. How's that marijuana in China? I mean, what does the government think about that?
That is a big no.
Big no, yeah.
Have that. Yeah, that's drug policy in China is a big no.
Right.
You can get deported, go to jail.
Man.
I've never heard of anyone executed, but it wouldn't.
That was my next question. Executed. But I guess it's a no drug policy in China. Forget about making liquids with this stuff. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, China's got a no drug policy at all. I mean, I don't know if you've read in the news, but like, so what police will do here is they'll go to bars and you have to do a drug test right there on the spot. So yeah, they take that very serious.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a couple weeks ago, Canada, the whole country was like, yeah, so it's legal. Cannabis is legal. That's okay. I was like shocked. I'm like, the whole country. They didn't even do it like one province at a time. They just like, the whole country. But, it's slowly happening here in the U.S. and it's just going to be interesting to see the mix. I don't know if they're going to make cocktails from this stuff and alcohol. It's just, I'm just interested to see how this whole thing plays out. But these stories, it just keeps popping up every week, about somebody else doing something with the THC, getting approval, massive amounts. One of the companies that we did on a previous beer news, I think they're out in Colorado. They got pre-orders for like 250,000 barrels, like their liquid, the THC beer. They call it a beer. That's heavy duty, man.
Whew.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of THC.
Wow.
I mean, I think it's cool that you're now experimenting into THC and things like that. It's interesting, and I know in China we can't do it, but I find it cool that Colorado's doing it. Massachusetts, I'm sure they're doing it probably within the next like 12 hours. Once it hits midnight, a brewery's probably just they're like, all right, roll the THC in.
Next,
start using it. We got a barrel-aged stout with THC.
There'll be another article next week from Craft Beer News about Massachusetts. Someone in I've heard like rumblings about people who want to get into the industry there, and it's a huge margin, like really lucrative. If you could figure it out, it's very lucrative, the whole cannabis industry. So I'm sure people are all over it. They're all over it. So
yeah.
That's our news for the week. And hey, Matt, I really appreciate you coming on. You spent some time with us today at Craft Beer Storm to do an episode on you guys and yourself and the Shanghai craft beer scene and China. It's really it's a great refreshing perspective to see what's happening there. But I think you're kind of still in your infancy with craft beer in China, and I think there's a huge upside potential, which, man, I got to check it out. I got to maybe do something over there. I don't know, in China. Maybe come on over,
come on over,
Craft Beer Storm, and go visit some breweries. I think that'd be awesome. If I could find somebody to sponsor me. If somebody's out there wants to sponsor me, let's do it. I'll throw it in the hat and see if anyone takes it at work. Yeah, see if Goose Island. Yeah, I'll come over. Yeah, bring me over. We'll go visit. Different breweries. We'll hang out. Wow. All right, so Matt, I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate everybody else tuning in. And if you like what we're saying, if you like the Craft Beer Storm. And the guests we're bringing you, please go on iTunes, subscribe, give us a rating, give us a review. That's the only way we can get ranked up on iTunes. They have these algorithms, and if they see more people giving us ratings, we move up the scale, and that just allows us to get more of the news that we have, and the more of the guests out there to people, and educate more people that there is an alternative to the big beer and its local craft beer, and there's other styles rather than just lagers and ales and lagers and like pilsners, but it's a great. There's just tons of styles which you can tune in every Wednesday. We can have a special podcast for you. But thanks, Matt. Yeah, we'll keep in touch, man.
Sounds good, Mike. Thank you for having me.
All right, bud.